Hello and welcome to the 44 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. This is your bracket preview. I am joined by the great Big Tex, Kendall J. Rogers, Fitty Barrels, Zebediah Fitt, Aaron J. Fitt, and Sauce Piece, Joseph J. Healy. Gentlemen, we have a bracket. The reactions are in. The bracket is the bracket. And this podcast, we'll go around the 16 regionals and we'll give some quick thoughts. This is going to be a turbo pod in a way because 16 regionals is a lot. And we will have incredible regional previews on the website. As we kick this off, boys, I want to say thank you to Academy Sports and Outdoors and Soldier Sports, who will be our sponsors throughout the postseason. Really, really excited. This is the time of year where we get this rolling. What do I have to say for us, boys? Let me give the rules of engagement. Rules of engagement are we're going to go around the horn on these regionals, and we're going to do 2 minutes. We're going to do 2 minutes. We'll have one of us take a leadership role on it, and we'll go from there. Boys, I don't know if you guys do this. I like to give each regional like a nickname, like a like a way to remember it. So like for Athens. I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think about this. I'm calling Athens the Facility Upgrade Regional. What do you think about that? Georgia, Binghamton, Duke, and Oklahoma State. Sauce, you like when I'm cooking? You like when I'm putting down there?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yes, I do. I don't know that I've really committed that much time to it, Runes, but I'm so thrilled that you have.
Oh, my
I have not thought about it that hard.
Plane ride home, I try to memorize the bracket, and Dave Lawn, who's an avid listener, Coach Lawn, CL, the great Coach Lawn, he messed me up because he sent me a text that said PK Park is, I'll paraphrase, is super hitter friendly. And so now in my brain, I've got TCU going to Eugene, but they're going to Corvallis. He was just making a comment that, and so CL, if you're listening, don't cross count me. Don't do that. I need fastball and fastball counts right now. So anyway,
let's get after it. Speaking of fastball counts, I'm ready. I'm ready to hit.
Yeah, Fitzy's ready to hit right here. If you give Kendall, you give Fitzy a take sign right now, he's blowing that stop sign. He's absolutely in swing mode. All right, so I'm going to have a timer. You guys will hear it go off after 2 minutes when we get too verbose. Kendall, we're going to go down the left side of the bracket, then the right side. Kendall, please take us to Nashville.
Yeah, really intrigued to see Vanderbilt this weekend. I think they're one of those teams that it's a little different look than a typical Vanderbilt team, at least the second half of the season. Early this year, we were a little concerned about Vanderbilt's offense, but they've really gotten going in conference play, and particularly over the last couple of weeks. 40 of their 62 home runs they've hit this year have come in against SEC teams. I was talking to a coach about Vandy yesterday. One thing that he kind of brought up was from just an attitude and just clubhouse standpoint, this is not a typical Vanderbilt team. Guys like Riley Nelson are a little chippy. They've got some chippiness to them with this club. And so that's not really what you think of when you think of Vanderbilt. So I like their overall vibe. I think Louisville, obviously very offensive club. The big key for Louisville is can they be a little bit more consistent? Well, a lot more consistent pitching wise, this weekend. If they are, Louisville can absolutely make some noise in this regional. I think East Tennessee State for me, Runes, is really intriguing because this is a club that, Joe Panucci and his team, if they don't win their conference tournament, I mean, there's a scenario, probably not, but there's a scenario where they could have actually gotten in as an at-large. So people are going to look at the name East Tennessee State and go, oh, they don't have a chance to make any noise in this thing. And, small Eastern Tennessee school. But, I mean, they had a very consistent year. They had a good RPI for the most part. And when you look at this team top to bottom, it's just a lot of power. I mean, Cody Miller, 16 bombs, 55 RBIs. Cooper Torres, 23 bombs, 72 RBIs. Greg Gallagher, 20 homers. Jamie Palmise, 16 homers. So they've got a lot of power up and down that lineup. And, of course, we cannot forget about Wright State, who once again won the Wright State Athletic Conference. Alex Sogard and his staff do a really good job. And they're one of those teams that you can bet that Tim Corbin going into that first game will not take them lightly. They can absolutely, upset you. And a couple of guys to watch for, the Raiders or what? I always forget their name.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Raider gang.
The Raider gang. Yeah, sorry, hold on. J.P. Peller, 20 home runs, and then Boston Smith, one of my favorite names in college baseball, with 23 bombs and 66 RBIs.
Kendall, I was about to compliment you for having great feel for the 2-minute shot clock right there, and actually pretty good. I mean, like you were ready to.
I was
wrap
trying to
up
hurry
right
up, and I don't know why I blanked out on them being the Raiders. Probably because of the Raider Gang Twitter name. I don't know.
They might are they the straight up Raiders or they might be the Green Raiders? No, maybe they're just
Just Raiders.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I was thinking of Middle Tennessee last second. So
hey, before I take us to Hattie's, the Raiders. That's well done. The before I do Hattiesburg, Joe Panucci was an assistant coach at Stony Brook when they went to Omaha. I'm not imagining that, right?
Yeah, he was an assistant coach, I believe, on that staff.
Yeah, so awesome.
Yeah.
So
Correct, yes.
yeah, it's the most random hire ever. Really quick, very quick story on Joe Panucci getting that job. When he got the ETSU job, I had gotten to know him a little bit during that run. And I texted him, I said, hey, I know this sounds really weird, and I don't believe this for a second, but are you going to East Tennessee State? He goes, actually, yeah, I just took the job. So it was just funny that a guy that coached at a school on Long Island was going to Johnson City, Tennessee, but he's done a really, really good job there. They've been consistently good, especially offensively.
Johnson City is the Long Island of Tennessee, Kendall. Many are saying.
That's what
Many
they
people
say.
are saying.
That's what they say.
Yes,
Knoxville is the little apple.
That's right. All right, I'm on the timer for Hattiesburg. We're going to go clockwise. So, Joe, you're going to be on deck. All right, Hattiesburg. So, Southern Miss is interesting. We know them as a pitching program, and they have that. J.B. Middleton is a real ace, and this 6-foot right-handed ace, which of course that's what Southern Miss has as their number one. He's awesome. They have a closer, Colby Allen, who I believe is a former catcher. I love that. Phylum as well. But they also have offense. Nick Monastery, their second baseman, is kind of your offensive second baseman. He's coming up on 20 home runs. So Southern Miss seems very, very balanced. And that 18-game winning streak at the end of the year was very, very impressive. Them and Coastal really distanced themselves in the Sun Belt. I love Southern Miss's budding rivalry with the Ivy League. In 2023, they were in a regional final with Penn, and now here come the Columbia Lions, Lions roar. Brett Baretti's, again, that's one of the premier programs in the Ivy League, and they won't be overwhelmed. Miami and Alabama are interesting. They've had moments. Alabama got off to a great start in SEC play. I saw them early. That's when Justin LeBron was going to run away with the Golden Spikes Award. Now he came back to the pack, but he's still a star player. Miami's interesting. Daniel Cuvée is also a star. They're very freshmen changed the game for Miami. AJ Siskar going into the rotation, and the younger Brian Walters going out of the rotation to the closer role. That really kind of changed their season. For 4 weeks, Miami went 10-1 versus NC State, Duke, Georgia Tech, and BC. They really haven't replicated those 4 weeks since then, but for that month, Miami was as good as any team in the country. So we'll see. I think Miami and Alabama, it really boils down to what version we see of those guys. How about Coach Rooney with 8 seconds to spare? Hum me.
That was really good.
Kid.
Hum
babe.
I think the key for Alabama this weekend is Zane Adams. I think he has got to be really good for them. He's kind of struggled a little bit down the stretch.
Love it. Joseph, how about Tallahassee, T-Town?
Is it which side? Hang on.
Down the left-hand
We're
side.
going down the left-hand side of your bracket.
You know what the easiest thing to do, Joe, is to open up the bracket challenge and go off of that.
I was looking at the
the
post.
By the way, do that while Joe is looking that up. Go to the D1Baseball bracket challenge. There's prizes. You win a Turtle Box speaker. You win a Tecovas prize pack. What else we have? We have Chinook Cedary. My man Brandon Beaverson. He's got everybody set up on Chinook. So a lot of prizes this year on D1Baseball in the bracket challenge. We've got 9,000 submissions already.
That's
so
amazing.
it's rocking and rolling.
First things first, Bradley Smart, if you're listening, on the little stat breakdown you did, we have Florida and Mississippi State in the same regional in Tallahassee. That's not correct. So we get that cleaned up. So it was.
Way to call him out there, Joe.
Well, no, I just
it
was more like putting it out there so we could remember to tell him.
It's like a verbal Post-it note, Joe. I was here for it.
Well, don't worry, I love you, Bradley.
So what happened is I was looking at our post on the site that has the field that we put up right after the field went live. So I had Austin all queued up, and I was like really in it. But now I'm going to pivot, and it's going to be great. So Tallahassee, Florida, Northeastern, Mississippi State, Bethune-Cookman. For me, the big question here is which Northeastern do we get? We joke about, every time we look at Northeastern is when they kind of have trouble, and whenever we're not really expecting much from them or we're expecting a little less from them is when they shine. Historically, this team has not played well in regionals. That's just kind of the reality of it. We're kind of waiting to see their big breakout on the regional stage. Will it be this weekend? And for Florida State, I think it's always going to be the key of, look, they've got a little bit of a cheat code with their rotation. If those guys pitch well, it's kind of hard to imagine anybody really putting up much of a fight here. But the deal is, if you can get past those guys and you can get to the Florida State bullpen, you feel a lot better about that. So how taxed does Florida State get early in the bracket? And who would be shocked if Mississippi State makes a run here, right? I mean, it's just been such a weird season for them, and Justin Parker has done a nice job as the interim there. They're certainly talented enough to really put up a fight this weekend. And again, they're one of those teams I just don't know quite what to expect from because it's been a little bit of a upside down season for them. But they've played well in this regional before. I think we all remember the Elijah McNamee home run. That's a pretty vivid memory. That was in Tallahassee as well. So should be a fun one. I'm most intrigued by Northeastern, but there's a lot of stuff to watch here.
Love it. I think you nailed that. By the way, 2018, what you referenced there, if you want to get the juices flowing, go Google that, get that on YouTube. Down to their last strike, they got run off the field by Oklahoma, the Kyler Murray Oklahoma team, 20-12, and then down to their last strike. McNamee hits that 3-run homer, and now we're off to Omaha. It was just incredible. Very good. By the way, boys, I want to say, since Joe left us a little extra time, on the second hour show the other day, because we're talking about Florida State, we're interviewing Alex Lodis, and we're going, Matt Schick asked a question, Kyle asked a question. Now it's my turn to ask a question. I immediately start panicking. Is his name Alex or Kyle? Alex or Kyle? Alex or Kyle? I mean, I can't be the only person that has done that. And I'm like, I'm looking at the screen saying, please put his name up there. Please put his name up there. Thank God they did.
Just drop a coach on him.
I was going to go bro or dude. I don't know what we would have done.
Bro.
Mr. Lodis, my question to you.
Oh, that's good stuff.
The other question is, like, how many times have people called Max Blue Cade Blue? Like, I feel like I've done it at least a couple of times on a radio show.
Hey, Rouge, if it makes you feel any better, none of us were watching because we were busy blowing you guys' doors off with our own competing live show here on D1Baseball.com.
Well, and also wasn't the interview with J.R. Teagues right afterwards, so that was the media members had things to do. Yeah. So I get it. Fitzy, can you take us to Corvallis, if you will?
Yeah, we got a good one up in Corvallis. Los Beefs had a week off. I hear they dominated their inter squads though, and they're ready to go. Number 8 national seed, really good club. This is how good this team is, guys. You had Trent Caraway hiding down there in your 9 hole. And I get it. Crazy. He hadn't had a very good year, but this guy is a monster talent. And I think if he can really get hot in the postseason, boy, that could be huge for them. But I love the athleticism of this lineup. I mean, those outfielders, Easton Talton, Canner Reader, those guys can run. Gavin Turley, of course, had a huge year, kind of quietly, had a really big year for them. He's been a very productive player. I know there's some swing and miss, but he's become more selective. He's a tougher out than he used to be. And of course, Ivar Arquette's a superstar. I think we all know the Beavers position player group is excellent. Wilson Weber has been red hot behind the plate. I think it comes down to how the pitching performs, and it's been pretty good lately. I think since they reshuffled the deck there, moving Eric Segura into the rotation and putting the lefty Keljo in the bullpen, I think that made a lot of sense for him. But Ethan Kleinschmidt was great at the end of the year, and Dax Whitney's been very good. So I think it's shaping up pretty well for them. But you got a real challenge with TCU coming in here, a team that has serious power arms that they can run at you, led by Tommy Lepore, who's a beast. High 90s guy with physicality and really, really good stuff. Yep. And to compete. K'Mon Parker, huge key for them, not good at the end of the year. Very talented guy, again, 4-pitch guy who can beat anybody if he's on. I like their bullpen quite a bit. I think that's a real strength. And certainly there's, a nice blend of pop in the lineup and some length there too. And then they play good defense. So I think TCU is a very dangerous 2C that could win that regional. I don't know where I am on time, but I'm just going to keep going. USC, good club. Had a really nice bounce back year, first regional in a decade now. Cool story there. A team that has had to show a lot of toughness over the last 2 years playing off campus in Orange County. Ethan Hedges, the great two-way player, fantastic third baseman, is a real player to watch there. And St. Mary's back in a regional under Eric Valenzuela, who had them in a regional before when he was previously at St. Mary's before he went to Long Beach. They had again, kind of flew under the radar in the WCC, but I think they went 15-9 in the league and played great at the end of the season. And the last 10 games or so, I think they were 9-1, beat the Toreros in the finals and earned their way in. So keep an eye on them.
Love it.
I find that getting
blowing through this clock now.
I find that getting caught flat-footed on which regional you're doing helps you keep under time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's good. It's good. I will mention TCU's I didn't realize until I had the Big 12 tournament. TCU's freshman class, just the depth of it, it might be the best in the country. They have that freshman class is exceptional.
It is really good.
Yeah,
so good.
By the way, Tommy Lepore is a psycho, and I kind of love it.
Oh, he's so psycho.
Agreed.
Yeah, if you're an energy drink company looking to grab some market share, you need to get in touch with Mr. Lepore.
Get some Lepore, get some Fitt on your payroll. It's all you need.
That's right.
I'm too old to be going to college parties, but if I was back in college, I would definitely want to party with Tommy Lepore. No question, he has fun at parties.
You could Lepore yourself.
That's a good.
Is that
stuff.
something? Is that something?
That's something.
Yeah.
That was so terrible, but it was funny.
Any energy drink company that if you're not where you want to be, hire Joe Healy, VP of Marketing. He will get Aaron Fitt and Tommy Lepore on board. I just made your 2026. Go ahead. You're welcome.
Runes, two things. Next year, we need to make it where you just pick a regional and we don't know which regional you're going to.
Oh, gosh. That would be delicious.
On that note, let's go to Chapel Hill.
Number 5, yes.
Yeah, North Carolina, my national championship pick. I love the way these guys are playing. A little bit of recency bias here, but I thought they looked awesome last week. Obviously Jake Knapp, the ACC Pitcher of the Year, leading the way. Offensively, they were red hot over the last week. Obviously Luke Stevenson, the big piece. Kane Kepley covers a lot of ground there in the outfield, which I think matches up very well if they get to the College World Series. But let's talk about some of these other teams. Nebraska, wins the Big Ten tournament. This was a team, Runes, that early in the season, they took a series from Oregon State. This is a club that has the potential to be really good. Gabe Swanson, earlier in the season, I want to say the first half of the season was actually pretty good. I remember him being on the leaderboard, the stat leaderboard several times. Just hitting 247, but, had a big week at the Big Ten tournament. Does have some pop. Caden Brumbaugh had a big week offensively at the Big Ten tournament as well. And then Luke Broderick is another nice piece for them on the mound. So, Nebraska, worth watching. There is talent there. There is an ability for them to make a run. And then Oklahoma, I think the big key for them, they're going to pitch. With Kyson Witherspoon and that staff, they're going to pitch. I think the big key for them. I do feel like whenever Dayton Taki was out of that lineup with an injury, it had a different complexion to it. And I think now that he's back, I think that's big for them. Easton Carmichael, obviously kind of a fire starter for them. But the big thing for me, again, can Oklahoma get enough offensive production, especially if they play a team like North Carolina, to make a move in that regional? They have the pitching. Then the last team would be Holy Cross. What a job that Ed Kohovic has done there. The pride of Worcester County. They're one of those clubs that, they're not going to overwhelm you with power. When you look at their offensive lineup, I want to, the leading hitter, John LaFleur, was 7, or the leading power hitter, John LaFleur, was 7 home runs, 48 RBIs. They're going to do things a little different. They're not going to rely on the long ball, but keep an eye on Jaden Waiwoda, who, enters the weekend with a 3.72 ERA and 84 2/3. So do not sleep on the crew from Worcester County. I heard they're a little tough out there outside of Fitzy.
Waiwoda, low slot joker, Coach Rooney. I think it's about sidearm, and then you got their number 1 starter, Macchiata. Is that his name?
Danny Macchiarola.
That's
Macchiarola.
It's like a
Thomas
three quarters low, 3/4 guy, and it gets on you fast.
Yeah.
So they got a couple little funky looks back there on the mound.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was talking to a coach the other day that was, I was like, hey, are you going to kind of go with a funky guy? in your Friday spot, and this is a team that was facing like a mid-major or a low major, and he was like, no, we're not going to throw that guy because they're used to seeing that. So, North Carolina here, they're not used to seeing these low slot jokers like this in the ACC. So don't be surprised if, Holy Cross surprises them a little bit. I think back to the year that I went to the Corvallis Regional. If you remember, Holy Cross was like leading that game against the number 1 overall national seed, like the 7th inning, and like the Oregon State fans were silent. And all of a sudden, obviously, Oregon State scored like 4 runs in the 8th or something. But I mean, they were leading going into the 8th inning. I believe DeCenzo, Greg DeCenzo, the head coach then.
Yeah,
but yeah, they gave them all they could handle.
Worcester County ain't scared of nobody. They ain't backing down.
I love that's one of my favorite parts of the tournament and squeeze play is all the crazy pronunciations that you run into. And I was thinking this with Ed Kahovic. I think if your name is Ed Kahovic, you are either 15 years old or you are 58 years old. Now, this Ed Kahovic, Joe, you with me on that? Like, you're either a teenage boy or you're like an old man. Now, Ed Kahovic, if I had to guess, is like in his mid-30s, and he has done an awesome job.
He does look younger.
Yeah, but that is such an adult.
Sorry, I blew through the clock on that one. That's my fault. Fitzy's wearing off.
Coach Fitt didn't like my take. He doesn't like anybody coming at Worcester in a non-complimentary manner. Boys, let me take you to Eugene. Oregon was the number 12 seed. So the Ducks are, back-to-back super regionals. They've got an ace in Grayson Grinzel. They've got Jacob Walsh. Mason Neville actually struggled in the last 5 games. I think he was like 2 for 25 with no homers, but he's dangerous. The Ducks are old. 8 of the 9 starters from the team that went to College Station for that super regional last year are back. It feels like they've been bored at times this year, but at the same time, they are very, very good. Utah Valley is a cool story. We have several programs that are first-year head coaches that have taken their teams the NCAA tournament. Nate Rasmussen is one of them. They're very offensive. Luke Iverson is a switch hitter they have that is a really good player. Whether they have enough pitching for this will be a different matter. They won the WAC tournament, but they did not win the WAC. You've got Cal Poly. I think we're all feel so happy for Larry Lee. He's just been such a great coach on the West Coast for a long time. Larry Lee is one of the great teachers of hitting on the West Coast. Obviously, his son got called up to the big leagues last year, Brooks Lee, and that's kind of Cal Poly. They field at a very high percentage. It's the best fielding team in this regional, and they hit. They're hitters. This is not like the modern OPS, 3 true outcomes, any of that type of stuff. Cal Poly hits. They get hits. They hit doubles, that type of thing. And then Arizona is very, very dangerous. I mean, it's an elite bullpen. They have crazy stuff in their bullpen, different looks. Then you've got Tony Pluta. You've got Mason White went off at Globe Life. He hit 3 home runs. Brendan Summerhill is back. He's a projected first-round pick. Arizona is very interesting. They were the 4th-place team in the Big 12, but not by much. They lost to the bad teams, and they beat all the good teams. So I think Arizona was a tough draw for Oregon, but I do think Oregon is clearly, they feel like very much an Omaha team to me. Boom.
Yeah.
Boys, I've heard there's been a trade. Has there been a trade, Fitzy?
Confirmed. Yes, with the 6th pick, the JoJo Joes have traded Conway to the Fitty Barrelses for the 7th pick Auburn.
See, some of it's
and cash considerations.
Yes.
Some of it's just do what Runes tells us to do. So
we got some backroom dealing going on here. I'm going to Conway. Joe's going to Auburn, so it kind of made sense for us to flip these. Plus, we've already previewed them both. So here we go. All right. So Conway, Coastal Carolina. This is not your grandpappy's Chanticleers. This is not a bunch of boppers. Aiming it over the little walls they got there. It's a Homer Dome they play in. This is crazy. It's a Homer Dome, and they are 2nd in the country in ERA, behind only Northeastern. But it's kind of like, to me, that's like Wake Forest leading the country in ERA a couple years ago. That's hard to do in that ballpark. It's incredible how good this pitching staff is. Jacob Morrison, Cameron Fluke, both big-time stuff in the rotation. Riley Eichhoff, a great pitchability, command guy behind him. That's a nice trio. That rotation stacks up with any in the country for me. I believe it's real stuff and experience. Great bullpen too. Elite. Dominic Carbone, Ryan Lynch, Hayden John. I mean, they got depth. Matthew Potok, Darren Horn, kind of the lower slot sweeper guy. It's an elite pitching staff. It's not a terrifying offense. Only one double-digit home run hitter, but they play very good defense. There's some guys who can put the ball in play, but it's a pitching and defense outfit, which is fun for Coastal. Florida, scary 2C that nobody wanted to have in their regional, but they're without Luke Heyman. As I understand it, he is done, isn't he? Joe, is that the latest? I think that's correct. I'm gonna go with it. That's a big loss. That's a big loss for Florida, but they still have power. Bobby Bozer and Brody Dene in particular. Brendan Lawson can drive it out of the yard. They're pitching again. It's like they can beat you with Liam Peterson, Aiden King, Billy Barlow, Coppola, McNeely, Clement. I mean, those are like 6 arms there that can beat anybody. Power arms, power stuff. ECU, not a great year for these guys. They finished 10 games back in their league. They still found a way into the regional. Keep an eye on the walk-on freshman second baseman from Pink Hill, North Carolina, Braden Burris, who won Outstanding Player Award at the AAC tournament. They went 4-0 there. You're going to see Ethan Norby a lot, I would assume, in some role or another. He was their ace most of the year, but they used him a couple times out of the bullpen. That's an X factor for them. He can beat anybody when he's on. He had a 19 strikeout game this year. And Fairfield, the Stags, very offensive team, feels like a good fit for that ballpark. Very old team. I think it's 8 upperclassmen in the lineup, and a pretty good 1-2 punch atop the rotation as well with Ben Alexson and Bowen Baker. So Stags were a regional finalist in Austin a couple years ago. Don't sleep on them.
Eliminated the Sun Devils
That's right.
that year. Absolutely. Joe, you want to take us to the Plains?
I would love to. First, I'll use some of my time to say that the town that Fitty was looking for there is Snow Hill, North Carolina.
Oh, no. There is a Pink Hill also. I just got them conflated. Apologies to the people of all the hills.
Wow.
Yeah, same town.
Snow Hill's very offended right now.
Same town as head coach Cliff Godwin and famous North Carolina rapper P.D. Pablo. How about that?
Rise up.
I like how Joe's dropping that P.D. Pablo on us. That wasn't the North Carolina put your shirt up?
Oh, that's
him.
That's
it, yeah.
Was it?
Come on, rise up.
One and the same. That's the state anthem.
Joe, I'm awarding you 20 additional seconds because of the P.D. Pablo diversion.
Joe gets plus 30 on the nonsense tracker already for just dropping a P.D. Pablo on us.
I'll take that into consideration.
Thank you. I'm gonna work bottom up on this one. When you're dealing with 4 seeds and regionals, like what you're really hoping for is standout players or something that makes that team unique. And with Central Connecticut State, there's 2 things. One is Charlie Hickey is just such a singular coaching career. At Providence, when that program gets shut down, goes to Central Connecticut State, has just kind of quietly been going about their business for 20 some odd years now, and pretty consistent winners. Also, Aiden Redahan, first baseman, or infielder, plays some second base too, leading the country in hitting at 458. Stetson's interesting to me.
Chris from Louisville is going to have a coronary when he sees you didn't give Ike Irish best hitter in this regional. But go on.
Well, you got to give some love somewhere else. You know what I mean? You got to mix it. You got to
Wait, who did he get? Wow. Okay.
Redahan leads the country in batting.
I gave it to Aiden Redahan. He leads the country in hitting. Like you got to give every team a little something in the previews. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yep. So regardless, Stetson's interesting to me. Big time ace, Joseph. I almost called him Joseph Gonzalez. That was Auburn's old pitcher, Jonathan Gonzalez. 1.95 ERA this year. Isaiah Barquette, their best hitter. He struck out 8 times all season. 3.3% strikeout rate. Also used to play at NC State. Speaking of which, NC State is the 2 seed in this regional. I really like their pitching staff. It's come around over time. We've talked a lot about Jacob Duden and his. How he's improved as the season's gone on. They know who their guys are in the rotation. I kind of like the makeup of that team, but can they get going back in the right direction after a little bit of a late season swoon? And then with Auburn, so much of their ability to get through this regional clean is going to be what do you get in the starting rotation beyond Samuel Dutton? You have a lot of confidence that he's going to give you what you need, but Christian Chatterton, Cam Tilley, Andreas Alvarez, whoever starts beyond Dutton is going to be the question for them. If they can get good starts from those guys, I think they're in good shape.
Well done, Joseph.
Yeah.
Boys, we did pretty good. Yeah, that was good. And yeah, the P.D. Pablo diversion was excellent. Fitzy, I appreciated your apology to all the people of the hill towns in North Carolina.
Thanks.
By the way, I do want to give Fitzy some credit here. So I did some Google mapping. Snow Hill and Pink Hill are only separated by 34 miles.
I believe they're both Duplin County, so they're basically the same. Apology retracted.
It's an honest
basically the same.
Apology retracted. Oh gosh, I'll tell you what, boys. I'll tell you what I'm not going to retract before we do the right side of the bracket is my love of Tecovas boots. Speaking of, if you love our game, you know that smell, the one that brings you right back. Fresh cut grass, a broken-in glove made with real leather. It's exactly what you get with Tecovas boots. They're made for baseball people, whether you've been wearing boots your whole life or you're picking up your first pair. With over 200 steps of craftsmanship, they're built to last. They feel great right out of the box, and they look even better. Anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. Find your pair today at Tecovas. Kendall, do you want to take us to – oh, go ahead, Fitzy.
Update. Neither Snow Hill nor Pink Hill is in Duplin County, and they're also not even in the same county. But the apology is still retracted. You're not getting that back.
Apology to the fine folks in Duplin
Apologies
County.
reissued.
This is like the Hindenburg of Hill Town discussion.
Joe, you know how we have like Texas history, like Texas geography in school? Clearly, like these states don't have this kind of geography.
Too many counties in North Carolina. Get it together.
Yeah, clean it up. We need a committee.
Let's talk about the Austin Regional instead of pointless North Carolina counties. Houston Christian is our 4th seed in Austin. Clay Vanderlaan has done an awesome job. Lance Berkman was the previous coach, went to Rice as the hitting coach, in the offseason. Clay did an awesome job getting that program to the NCAA regional in year 1. A couple of guys to watch for them. Obviously, Parker Edwards, one of their leading arms is really interesting. He's obviously a little different, kind of arm that Texas is used to. He's not going to miss a ton of bats, 69 strikeouts and 84 2/3. Offensively, Edwards is a key component as well. Really good two-way player, 9 home runs, 47 RBIs. Also keep an eye on the son of Todd Walker, a friend of the program, Jackson Walker, one of their leading hitters as well, hitting .325 with an OBP well over 400. Kansas State, guys, is really interesting to me. Obviously, one of the big keys of the weekend for them is Maximus Martin. When Kalen Culpepper left last season, we kind of wondered how he would be replaced. Maximus has done an awesome job in his absence. 332, 14 homers, 54 RBIs. Seth Darter has had a really nice offensive year. And I think the big key for Kansas State, they have the talent to make a run in this thing. The big key for them, though, is they need more consistency out of the weekend rotation. If you look at all 3 weekend starters, they've got an ERA over 5.9 or higher. That's just not doable to win a regional. So they're going to need to be more consistent in that regard. UTSA, guys, I think is really dangerous this regional. They've beaten Texas before. Granted, it was a midweek game, so that is a much different, kind of setting. But they're dangerous. Caden Miller is a big-time bat for them. Mason Lytle has 21 doubles this year with 9 home runs. He's been a key component. James Taussig, I want to say when they played in the midweek, had a big game for them. So they can really hit. And Zach Royce is a big-time arm. So it'll be really interesting to see what UTSA can do. And real quick on Texas, I think the big key for Texas is, how does Schloss kind of mix his pitching staff up for the weekend? Without Jared Spencer, Texas is a little bit more limited than they were 3 or 4 weeks ago. Can a team get them to a Monday of a regional? That is going to be the key to that regional, because if they can, I think Texas becomes vulnerable on a Monday. If they can get that, if that regional is decided before Monday, that certainly favors Texas greatly.
Yeah, I just think with Texas, it's all about Dylan Volantis right now. Like the position player group is very skilled and competent, if not, it's not like superstardom, but when they had Grums and Volantis to lock down 6 innings at the end of the games every weekend, it just makes them very hard to beat in a weekend series.
Yeah, I will say real quick too on Volantis, he's still getting outs, but it does feel like, and Joe saw him in Hoover, but it does feel like that when teams see him or like for a second inning, that they're starting to get better swings off of him. So I don't know if the book's out on him just a hair, or if it's just his stuff is maybe his metrics have ticked down just a hair. But teams are definitely seeing him a little bit better after the first few batters, it feels like.
Love it. All right, boys, let me take you to Los Angeles. I love that Xavier Scruggs and Danny Wexelman are doing that regional for ESPN. Been really giving Danny a hard time about the Hollywood extras and the E-Entertainments wanting to interview her while she's out there. They're the 15 seed. It's been a minute. I just think this is a region with some star hitters. Fresno State is your 4 seed. Murph Gray is a 6'4", 230-pound third baseman who had 18 home runs and 73 RBIs. He's really, really fun. And then Irvine, Arizona State, and UCLA might be the most tightly bunched 1, 2, and 3 in any regional nationally. Arizona State is the 3. They are a scary team that played under a lot of pressure. They hadn't been to a regional in 4 years, and they really wore that most of the year. I just think this team's going to have a bunch of dudes drafted. They're very physical. They have tremendous power. They've got 2 really good arms in Ben Jacobs and Jack Martinez. Arizona State's dangerous, but they've just haven't done it. So it's like you don't know. Is it going to be more of the same, or is the pressure's off and they're going to exhale and play great? Irvine is just so consistent. They've been to Omaha in 2007, 2014. They've got 3 hitters right in the middle: Anthony Martinez, Jacob McCombs, Colin Yeaman, their shortstop. So Irvine is very offensive. They're different. Arizona State's offense is very power oriented. Irvine's offense is more doubles and on-base percentage. And then UCLA is a freshman class that became sophomores, led by Rock Chalowski. Their sophomore class is awesome. Rock Chalowski, 23 home runs, 20 hit by pitch. He moved to shortstop. He would be my pick for Golden Spikes Award. Like that, Rock Chalowski is the best player in the country in 2025 for my money. Who wants my 8 seconds?
He also leads the country in WAR, so the numbers do back that up.
There you go.
By a full run over second place James Quinn Irons. That's a big gap.
Love it.
Good use of the 8 seconds.
Yeah. Joe, are you taking Oxford, or have you traded Oxford?
No, I'm taking Oxford. I'm going to keep that pick because I like this regional. I'm going to start from the bottom up again because I think it's interesting that one of the most interesting subplots of regional weekend is always, what do you do with your pitching if you're a top seed, or if you have one ace, or if you have a rotation that's a little more flat where all 3 guys are kind of interchangeable. Well, Murray State probably doesn't have the pitching to get to the end of this deal. Famous last words there, probably. But their offense is legit, and Ole Miss is going to have to fire whatever it thinks it's his best bullet. I assume Hunter Elliott in that opener. Like, they're not really going to be able to get cute, I don't think, because Murray State can really, really hit. And they're going to play hard. That's kind of the hallmark of that team. So that's interesting to me. The 3 seed Western Kentucky does have the pitching to get through this regional, famously one of the best pitching staffs in the country this season. Obviously, that they're going to see some better offenses than what they've seen for most of this season, but I still have a high level of confidence their pitching will keep them in games. Georgia Tech, obviously, there's the sentimental factor with Danny Hall being his final year. I think the team is going to be fairly motivated, especially now that they feel like they were snubbed for a host spot. I think they're going to feel very motivated to get 32nd year head coach Danny Hall back to Omaha to bookend his career at Georgia with Omaha appearances. Certainly with Drew Burris, in the outfield, you like that. Their pitching depth is better than it's been. It's still not elite, but it is better than it's been. So I do think they have the talent to get this done if they play well. And then for Ole Miss, I think the sneaky thing about them, and we saw this in Hoover, is that their starting rotation, which, has kind of been like kind of for me a lot of the year, has shown signs of moving in the right direction. Specifically, Riley Maddox has been really good for like 5 of his last 6 starts. He started the year kind of being a 5-inning guy who'd give up 2 or 3 runs and you could kind of set your watch to it. But of late, he started to get deeper into games. He started to control games a little bit more. And I think that bodes really well for a team that otherwise the pitching, I kind of felt like might be their undoing this season. But right now, feels like it might be a strength for him. But this is definitely a regional where I feel like anything can happen.
I love it. Did I hear this right, Joe, that Ole Miss led the SEC in strikeouts and grounding into double plays? And yet, like, I actually like their offense. Like, they just keep playing, right? Like, I feel like I get frustrated by them, but they don't get frustrated by themselves. And that's what's most important.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. It's just an old team everywhere. And they're going to be a big test of, does old win when all else is kind of equal? Because it feels like Georgia Tech, in terms of raw talent and prospects and all that stuff, might be on equal footing with them. But it's just like they're just super old. And how much does that matter?
Fitzy, this next regional, this might be my favorite on the board. This is a good one.
It is a good one. Athens, we have another, stop me if you've heard this before, another home run friendly venue. And Georgia, in fact, the host, leads the nation in home runs, 133. It's a scary offense, especially at home. They're very, very difficult to beat at home. But, Slade Alford, Colby Branch, Nolan McCarthy, Devin Obie, Rylan Zaborowski, Henry Hunter, Robbie Burnett, Daniel Jackson, all those guys have double-digit home runs this year, and there are more beyond that can drive the ball out. So good luck stopping that offense, especially at home. But they've actually pitched pretty well here. I like the way the rotations come together with Leighton Finley and Brian Curley is a good 1-2 punch. They got plenty of power arms behind them and that have worked in a variety of roles. I think JT Quinn and Colton Smith are going to be big keys for them to make a postseason run. Just big arms they need a lot out of. Duke has the second most home runs in this regional, and they're actually 14th in the country with 99 dingers this year. So not a bad fit for this ballpark. Duke has won a regional before in Athens, if you recall, not that long ago. I don't remember what year it was, but in the Pollard era.
2018.
Again, yeah, okay, there we go. Ben Miller, again, big kind of scary power hitter, 5th or 6th year guy, been there forever. Well, been in college baseball forever, 2nd year Duke, but having another good year. AJ Gracia rebounded from a terrible start. Still an elite prospect for next year, a guy that can really hit and has power. Keep an eye on those two guys with Jake Hyde as well. Nice, powerful core there. This team, they once again, they mix and match on the mound. It's not, they're not going to get a lot of length from their starters, but I mean, you could see 8 different guys in a game, and they're all pretty good and run different stuff at you. A lot of lefties too. James Talon looks like the old James Talon. Oklahoma State guys, always a threat in a home run hitter's park because they do have power. Once again, maybe not as much as they do sometimes, but Nolan Schubert, Colin Bruggeman, those guys in particular, and Colin Ritchie as well. I mean, they got some juice. A team that really had to work hard to get into a regional. They pitched a little bit better down the stretch. Harrison Bodendorf and Hunter Watkins, Mario Pesca, some pretty good starts down the stretch for them to kind of stabilize things, and Sean Youngerman as well. So finally, Binghamton is your 4 seed, a team that probably is a little light on the mound, I think, but they do have some juice offensively, and again, the part of that lineup, Devin Bade and Evan Sullivan and Freddie Forgione, some guys that can drive it out. So maybe they can make a little bit of noise here as well.
Joe, can I have you effort the name of Binghamton Stadium? Because many are saying they have the nicest facility in this regional. Now, that's a controversial statement. Maybe it's showing some favoritism, but I just want to address the elephant in the room that maybe they're hosting this in the wrong place. This should have been held in Binghamton, New York. That's all I got. Oh, I do want to say this, Fitzy, to back up your point. In the Big 12 tournament, Oklahoma State went like 4 innings where they swung at the first pitch of the at-bat once. And then Duke, it's walks and home runs. And what does Georgia do? They hit home runs and they walk people. So just the matchups in this thing are fascinating.
It's going to be a high-scoring regional, one would think.
Yeah.
The Binghamton's baseball stadium is named, wait for it, Bearcats Baseball Complex.
The BBC, if you will.
But isn't
that a British television station or something like that?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it a controversial British television station?
No.
It's like their version of PBS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's their federally.
So maybe it is controversial then, because PBS is apparently controversial now.
Under attack. I guess when you get like an anonymous $60 million donation, you don't feel overly motivated to go get a title sponsor. You just leave it as is.
Gotcha. Sizzler Stadium or something. I don't know. We work on that. So who has LSU? Is that you, Kendall? No. What did I do?
It is.
No, yeah, Kendall.
It is Kendall.
Yes.
And Kendall's on mute, though, so we're going to have to work on that.
Yeah. I'm on Baton Rouge.
We're going to have to work on that.
Let's talk about the Baton Rouge Regional real quick. My man, Rafael Serrato, has done an awesome job at the Rams this year. Rhode Island, another one of those teams that is not your typical, number 3 seed in terms of, RP. They're not a typical team out of the A10 in terms of RPI. Their RPI is actually pretty good. Tristan Levisque has had a really good year for them, 90 strikeouts and 88 2/3. By the way, 40% whiff rate on his changeup. So, if you're DBU, keep an eye on that this weekend. He likes to throw that changeup for a strikeout pitch. The number 2 seed in that regional is DBU. It's not your grandpa's DBU. When you think of DBU, you think of just shut down, Ryan Johnson kind of years, on the mound where the dude has a 2.5 ERA with 125 strikeouts. That is not what DBU has this year. But, James Ellwanger is a big-time arm. He has the potential to put together one of those type of starts. Offensively, when you look at these guys, Grant J is certainly a big piece at offensive lineup for his 19th season in Dallas. I feel like he's been there forever. Nate Humphreys has had another really good year for them. He can steal bases. He's 19 stolen bases, 17 homers, 68 RBIs. And then, you look at some older pieces like Michael DeTalo. I think Tom Poole is finally back in the lineup. Heath told me a couple weeks ago, or this is probably 2.5 weeks ago, that, once they kind of get him back, it changes the dynamic of their offense dramatically. I believe he is back. And so there is depth offensively. I'm wondering how much they'll pitch. And, I think I skimmed over Little Rock, but, Chris Curry, give him a lot of credit. They come into this thing with an RPI of 243, but, give them a lot of credit for winning that conference tournament. One of the big pieces for them, offensively, Ryan Geck has had a really nice year for them, 6 homers and 48 RBIs. Ty Rhodes with 8 homers on the year. And again, I feel like we talk about this with a lot of these mid-majors, but, Jack Klein, 61 strikeouts in 80 innings. And real quick on LSU, I think the big key for LSU, we all know about Ianson and Cade Anderson, but I think the big key for LSU is they have a very favorable regional, but I think this is the moment where a guy like Monster Milam kind of gets back in his element a little bit. I think he came out yesterday saying he's going back to the postseason haircut. He's one of those guys that's been exceptional defensively this year, but he needs to be more offensive. He has been an offensive liability, quite frankly. And so I've got Monster Milam circled as like my breakout guy this weekend for the Tigers.
Love that. Kendall, do you have to do a radio hit? Will you want us to take it home from here?
I can do. What do we got here?
Or you could do the radio hit on mute. That would be even more entertaining.
I mean, you're done. Like, we only have 3 more.
So
you're done if you.
You're dismissed if you
Yeah,
want
so I got to hop on a radio hit, but should be a fun weekend, and these boys will take you home.
So it's me in Clemson. So let's do this. Clemson is what are they? They're what seed were they? Number 11. Okay, so going bottom up, USC Upstate, the Fighting Spartans. I think they're the only team in the field that's first regional ever. Kane Sweeney, their head coach, for another first-year head coach. Their best hitter is his younger brother, which is so hilarious. It's like an American Legion team. So Kane Sweeney's younger brother, Johnny, has a bazillion RBIs, big physical left-handed hitter. He also told his brother Johnny that he wasn't good enough to come to, I think they were at Murray State at the time. He sent his brother to junior college to start, but they all got over it. Kane's his son, his favorite, he's got a 3-year-old son. His favorite player is, of course, Uncle Johnny. So, hey, the one thing about Upstate boys is they play Clemson every year. So they're not going to be like totally spooked by that. So I think that's very interesting. Kentucky is the 3 seed. I just think Kentucky's very young. They've dealt with a lot of injuries this year. I don't think they're positioned to win this thing. Other than just being an SEC school that's very weathered. Tyler Bell is a star. I think the big question for Kentucky is they've used Ben Cleaver strategically on Sundays all year when he is clearly their best arm. Do they change that? Do they move him to game 1 of a regional? That will be interesting. West Virginia, just a really, like, a team you would love, right? They're like a bunch of gamers in the lineup, and but it's just they went 37-5, and I think they're 4-9 cents. So they just you hope they were playing better when they beat Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament, and then they did lose that next game. Clemson is just this team. We've covered them a lot. They grind you out at bat-wise. Cam Cannarella, can he find another gear? That bullpen of Malstedt and is it Ferris? Fitzy, am I saying that right?
Reed Garris.
Yeah, Reed Garris. He's been out. So him, whether he's back or not, is going to be a real key for Clemson. But they really fight you on offense. They're competent defensively, if not more than that. And it's a bullpen that scares you. And they've got an ace in Aiden Canuck. So Clemson is a sentimental pick for me to go to Omaha, but we'll see if they can make it happen. Fitzy, go ahead.
Isn't it me with? Yeah, me with.
Joe, that's right.
I changed the layout, so we're not moving this way anymore. So that's
good,
on me.
Though. Glad you did that.
But I've got Knoxville. A couple interesting subplots here. One is that, at least last I've seen, unless something else has been reported, but I doubt it, Tennessee is planning on sticking with Liam Doyle, followed by Marcus Phillips, etc. Well, the question there is, if Cincinnati beats Wake Forest, and Tennessee beats Miami, Ohio, Cincinnati is a team that runs a lot. Marcus Phillips on the mound. We know that combination has been dicey in the past, but it kind of looks like Tennessee is going to stubbornly, for better or worse, I'm not saying it's a negative necessarily, but stubbornly just kind of keep sticking with what they got, in the same order. And Tony, for all of the everything that he is as a head coach, like tends to be kind of a traditionalist. That doesn't surprise me in terms of the way they do that. One of the other subplots though is Wake Forest, and Aaron, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but they're going to have to use Blake Morningstar against Cincinnati, I assume. And then once you get past him, it's like not quite as certain.
Nope.
So if they win that opener, who do they throw against Tennessee, right? So that's interesting. Tennessee will, of course, most likely see Cooper Katsky, a starter for Miami, Ohio, who threw a complete game against Kent State in the MAC tournament. Certainly a guy. Man. That's right. Yes, that's right. Cat Stevens, if you will. Certainly just a classic workhorse, and how does that play in Leslie Nielsen Stadium, as we lovingly call it? We will have to see. And then which Tennessee do we get, right? Do we get the Tennessee that's lost a bunch of home games this year? Or does Tennessee flip a switch? Obviously, they're far and away the most talented team in this regional. All due respect to Wake Forest, which has plenty of talent in its own right. But, Tennessee's is one of the most talented rosters in the country. Do they flip a switch? I don't think that would surprise any of us. But we're going to need to see it because, again, it wasn't so easy this season at home for the Volunteers.
One injury note there. By the way, Joe, well done. You had 4 seconds left. Landon Vitterick of Cincinnati has been dealing with an oblique, and it sounds like he's kind of 50-50 to play this weekend. And he's really important because he gives, he's kind of the Robin to Carrington Cross's Batman. And, this kid is like a 6'3", 200-pound athlete, like flies. He has had some swing and miss issues, but I'll be watching that really closely. I think Knoxville is as fascinating a regional as we have. Like that's one of the lots of eyeballs on that one.
I remember talking to Jordan Bishel in the fall, and I don't think he'd mind me saying this. I don't know if it made my fall report or not, but just Landon Vitterick was the type of guy that it was a question of like, is he going to figure it out in college, or is he going to go off into pro ball and figure it out? Because he's going to, because the physical tools are just like through the roof, and frankly, that's on a team that isn't the toolsiest team out there, right? Like he's kind of the one guy who stands out, at least on the position player side of, this guy has a real pro future. Otherwise, it's a lot of really good college players, and to their credit, they've maximized that. But Vitterick's the one guy that really is kind of dynamic in a way that makes you think we could be watching him in the big leagues for too much longer.
Fitzy, there was a coach I talked to in the Big 12 ahead of last week where when they played Cincinnati and he saw Vitterick's act, again, it's like a enormous left-handed hitter who could play wide receiver in the NFL. And he used your expression. He's like, do your job, SEC and ACC. Like, this kid was from Ohio. Like, how is he, no offense to Cincinnati, but he was there before Jordan Bishel. It's like, how did you guys whiff on this guy? But I guess the issue is he has had pretty significant swing and miss issues. So that's probably.
He does seem like a guy who would actually be on Tennessee's roster.
Right.
Because they tend to recruit that part of the country pretty well. And, maybe I'm just thinking of Griffin Merritt because he did play Tennessee. But
it's like a Judd Utermark type. I mean, just a big old athlete.
But way faster. Like, not that Utermark's a slug,
fast.
But this kid is, I think he's coming up on 30 steals. I don't know about Utermark.
It's like track star speed for Vitterick.
Fitzy, take us to the hog pen, please.
Coach, I like to think of myself as the Robin to Coach Healy's bait man. I don't know if you've gotten enough of that commercial yet. We've seen a healthy dose so far in Conference Tournament Week. Hey, Fayetteville, guys, is where we're wrapping it up here. Probably the most complete team in the country. They're, we talked so much about their offense really being this terrifying thing. And they're 14th in the country in scoring, but guess what? They're also 7th in the country in runs allowed per game. They are, as advertised, an elite pitching staff. Hadn't really, gotten great work from their starters at the very end of the season. So that's one key thing to watch from Arkansas is obviously you need to bounce back from Zach Root and the gang there. But their offense, I mean, it's 7 double-digit home run guys. It's very, very intimidating. And they defend well as well. They just do everything well. Great bullpen. I mean, lots going for them. Kansas, guys, upstart alert here. Great coaching job by Dan Fitzgerald and his staff, of course. Built a neat roster there. A lot of, bringing in JUCO guys and all that stuff. The thing that stands out to me is they really work counts. They have a lot of walks here. Got a bunch of guys with more walks and strikeouts or thereabouts. Obviously, Michael Brooks is a veteran piece who kind of fits that mold, that hard-nosed, grind you down thing. And, Derek Surt at the top of the lineup, and Brady Ballinger, patience and power there. Your man Brady Council, of course, who has a prettier batting stance than his father, from what I understand. Facts. They need, again, a bounce back from the race. Dominic Vaguely, it's a real key for them. He was not good his last time out against Oklahoma State. Onward to Creighton. Final go-round for the great Ed Service. Was a guy we all really like. He will hang it up, be replaced by Mark Kingston, who's now his associate head coach, whatever. Anyway, Kingston goes from South Carolina to Creighton and is still in the postseason. Imagine that. This guy's a winner. This team is a bunch of winners. They won 40 games. It's not a lot of power. Of course, they play in TD Ameritrade Park, of course, or whatever it's called now. They don't have a lot of home runs. That's not a surprise, but it's a good balanced lineup. Contact, skills, patience. They got some speed. Nolan Sailors can really run and also hit. He's hitting close to 400 with 27 bags. Like, that'll play. Keep an eye on that guy. Key player to watch. And of course, Dominic Cancelleri has been a key piece for multiple years. A really dominant frontline starter with Wilson Majors. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch there, top of the rotation. And finally, North Dakota State guys. Statistically, they kind of lag behind all these teams in most areas, but they got a great outing last time out from Logan Knight, who shut down Oral Roberts, 3-hit shutout. So that's something you can hang your hat on there. I mean, if you got a guy who can give you a shutdown outing, that's the ticket for an upset. And again, not a lot of power here. I don't think they have anyone with more than 5 home runs. So they're going to have to manufacture some stuff, but I don't see a lot of length in this lineup either. I think it's going to be probably a team that's a little bit overmatched. 20-32, they're coming in here, but they knocked off Oral Roberts, and they're in a regional, and they get their chance at the big stage here in Fayetteville.
Hey, Joe, can you confirm this for me? So their head coach, Tyler Oaks, I'm almost certain is the son of the late Todd Oaks, who was the pitching coach at Minnesota. So I think that's a really cool story right there too.
That is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. The Bison, the pride of Fargo. Brady Ballinger, who you mentioned, Fitzy, if people have not put eyes on him yet, he's super fun. It's very much Sean Casey vibes. Dan Fitzgerald says when he brings the lineup card up to start a weekend, whoever's the first base umpire, he says to that guy, hey, whatever first baseman talked to you the most during a game this year, that record's about to be broken, because Ballinger is like super gregarious, and his left-handed hitter, he's from Vegas. He's just a big character. And what I love the way you said it, Fitzy, it's patience and power. Like it's really, he's a hell of a hitter. Really incredible.
Kansas too. I think it bodes well for them. If it's working, guys like Vaguely and Cooper Moore, they're just going to try to ground ball you to death. And if that's working, like obviously this time of year when it's hot and teams are hitting for more power, Arkansas, obviously a ton of home runs, like that could be a recipe for them to be kind of tricky.
Yep. It's going to be fun. Boys, well done. We did the regional pod in under an hour, which is nearly an impossibility, but we pulled it off because we are that's how we're wired. We're serial winners, Fitzy. We win every podcast.
And since Kendall's not here, I'm going to give him a compliment. He did a pretty good time with his time. He did better than I did today, which has probably never happened before. So hats off to Kendall, because he'll never hear me say this. It's great.
I mean, it was either good discipline or he was preoccupied with text messages he was receiving.
Yeah, also true.
Yes, all the above.
He was prepared too. He came in with some whiff rates about change-ups. Come on, big text.
Some nuggets.
Oh.
My favorite line, though, was when Fitzy said to Kendall when he was muted, we're going to want to work on that. That was great. Yes. That was well done. Hey, I want to encourage everyone, don't go into the postseason without a subscription to the site. The site is ablaze with things that you're going to want to have your hands on. A sneak peek, the great Bradley Smart's got a thing where you can pull up a team and see their lineup, like basically get an immediate scan report on their starting lineup. Like it is unbelievable, all the different things on the website. The previews are coming with the superlatives. It's going to be awesome. So I want to say thank you to Academy Sports and Outdoors again, Soldier Sports, and that is it. Everyone enjoy regional weekend, and we'll catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.